Hi everybody, it's Christina. Welcome back to Adventures in Polish Land. Today I have a book review of Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I read this for the American Lit Reading Challenge. This is a book set in Minnesota, and in this book we are following two characters named Justin and Emma, and they meet through Justin's Reddit posts. He makes an Am I the A-hole post asking if he's the a-hole because he's named his ugly rescue dog after his best friend because his best friend is now dating his ex-girlfriend and they are meant for each other. It turns out that Justin has this curse whereby every girl that he dates after they break up, she goes on to find the love of her life afterwards, and he is just stuck in this endless cycle of dating people who he breaks up with and then they meet the love of their life directly afterwards. Well, it turns out that Emma also has this same exact curse. So she messages him on Reddit and they agree to date each other. So they have an agreement, they will go on 4 dates, they will have a kiss, and then they will break up, and the hope is that they will both go on to meet the love of their life directly afterwards because they will have broken the curse. Of course, this is a contemporary romance novel. We all know what's going to happen, but the book is about their journey together and how they get there happily ever after in the end. I don't read a lot of contemporary romance. I probably read 1 to 2 a year, but I found this one at a used book sale and decided to pick it up because Abby Jimenez is a really popular romance author, so I like to give the popular authors a try every now and again to see if they work for me. This book is technically the third in a series, but a lot of romance series are companion novels, so you can read each one as a standalone, and for me, I didn't notice that I was missing out on anything by reading this. In fact, I think I actually enjoyed it a bit more by reading this one first. I think I actually got a bit of a plot twist that you otherwise wouldn't get if you read all the books in order, and I heard Greg over at Supposedly Fun mention that as well. He also started with this book and he had the same experience, so I'm not going to recommend reading a series out of order when I've only read the one book, but I think if you do read this one first, you won't be missing out on anything, if that makes sense. What I really struggle with these types of books is the writing style. It feels very basic, very pedestrian. It feels very young, but it's dealing with adult topics. I mean, it is a romance novel. I would say it's not too heavy on the spice. So if that makes you uncomfortable, this is really only focused on a couple of scenes where it's very spicy, and even then it wasn't too over the top. But in addition to the romance content, this book deals with pretty heavy topics like mental health and other issues like that, and it dives in pretty deep in terms of discussing the ways that those aspects affect the characters' lives, but it does so in a way that feels almost like a soap opera. So with a soap opera, they are dealing with very dramatic, very serious topics, but because there's a new episode every single day, a lot of the time it's not of the highest caliber, right? The storytelling is a little cheesy and gimmicky. I felt that way while reading this book, and I feel that way a lot when I read romance novels. Because the writing is so basic and easy to read, I almost feel like it's just not giving the attention it needs to these very serious topics. I would like a more highbrow discussion of these issues. That being said, though, I gave this book a 3-star rating. I overall thought it was enjoyable. This reads very, very quickly, and don't be intimidated by its size because you can get through it in a few days if you're dedicated to reading it. This is the type of book that I would recommend for a vacation if you're on the plane or if you're on the beach or what have you, and you want to have a book that you can just read compulsively. I think this is a great option. The characters are likable for the most part. Of course, there are villain characters that you're not necessarily supposed to like, but you do have compassion for them. But Justin and Emma and their friends are all very likable and relatable characters, and I found it very easy to want to learn more of their story. So while I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, I think if you enjoy the genre, I can certainly see why Abby Jimenez is such a popular author, and I would consider picking up her books again if I'm in need of this type of story and I find it pre-owned at the thrift store again. Like I said, this one I got at a used book sale for 50 cents, so definitely worth my investment. I overall enjoyed it in the end. It's just not my personal cup of tea. but I can certainly understand why it is so popular. As for how this book incorporates the state of Minnesota, since I did read it as part of the American Lit Reading Challenge, it incorporates it a bit. Justin really likes living in Minnesota. He talks about the downtown area quite a bit, and you learn a little bit about the nature elements as well, because Emma is renting a house that is out on its own little island, so you learn a little bit about the geography that way. I'm glad that I was able to read this book both for my challenge but also to try out a new to me author, and I would love to hear in the comments, do you read Abby's books? If so, let me know your favorites. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That is it for today, though. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about Just for the Summer, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye.